Hey, welcome to Season 3, Episode 4, I believe, of Comic Book Nation, the official podcast of ComicBook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me today, I got my regular co-host, Janelle Wheeler.
Hey, everybody.
And Matthew Aguilar.
What up, peoples?
I don't know why I gave you like a fight title right there, but
it's fitting today.
Yeah, I've been feeling like you. Oh yeah, we are talking wrestling. So there you go. There's a good connection. See, the brain's always working even when it's not. So Matt is right. We are going to be talking some wrestling today because WWE has Royal Rumble coming up. But first, before we get to that, we got to break down this Godzilla versus Kong trailer. We also got to talk about this latest episode of WandaVision and what's going down with that. Plus, we have new comics to talk about. As always, we got more DC Future State. Plus, and the next big election, as I put it on Twitter, we got to vote for the final member of the X-Men team along with all you fans. So we are going to get into that election debate here. Probably the only political debate you will ever hear in Comic Book Nation. Who are we voting for the X-Men? So that's going down too. All right, guys, let's get into it. So, right up at the top, first things first, we got to talk about Godzilla versus Kong, the event culmination of Warner Brothers' MonsterVerse. They had a big trailer debut. It's breaking records for first day views of Warner Brothers movies. At least we're not talking Marvel movies. Everybody relax. But for Warner Brothers movies, it's breaking records. It's past the Batman. It's past Dune, both of which had big, major kind of event drops. But so far, it seems like people are loving Godzilla versus Kong, and it seems like it's getting a better reception than either the Godzilla reboot or Godzilla King of the Monsters. All I need to know is, who do y'all got? I already had this debate. I did Screen Junkies movie fights a long time ago, before this movie was even a thing, and we had a debate about this, and I am Team Kong all the way. Janelle, who you got?
Yes, I'm Team Kong too. I got to throw it back, man.
All right, that's right. I know we hired you for a great reason. Matt, who you got?
It's easy. It's Kong. Kong all the way. It's Kong.
Look at this crew. I don't know. We're like weirdly united today. Good. Yeah. Team Kong. What did you guys think of the trailer itself?
I mean, I don't think we're going to have to be Team Kong or Godzilla because I think that it's pretty obvious that they're going to team up. Is that not common? Does not everyone?
Well, Janelle, just stealing the fun out of all of it. Come on. Yes, of course we're going to team up.
And yes, you even see him.
Yeah,
kind of.
We can, and I mean that's gonna be cool in its own right? Like just seeing them wreck stuff together is gonna be amazing. If Kong does swings, does a helicopter swing of some monster and throws it up in the air so Godzilla blasts it, I'm gonna fall out of my seat like the gif of somebody dead. You know what I mean? That's gonna be great. I am alive and here for that. So yes, we know they're gonna work together, but in the initial Rumble, I want to see that go down. I'm really happy, and we got to settle
win.
Thank you. Win. That's what I said on Movie Fights in this huge debate. The opposable thumb. Nature already decided. We evolved because the lizards didn't have thumbs, and we're gonna. And Kong, and he knows how to use tools.
Yeah, his axe is made of Godzilla's little back pointers, right? Isn't that what's going on? It's absorbing the power of his
exactly.
paper.
Yeah. Can we also look at the Godzilla got pwned 3 times in his own movies? and Kong, it took forever to get him down once. Yes. And he was a baby then. He's now even bigger. Whatever. Yeah. No way. Kong.
So huge.
I mean, before we get into too deep a fight, I just want to say that the one thing I appreciate about this Godzilla versus Kong trailer, first of all, Adam Wingard, the director who's gotten flack for doing things like Death Note, remake an anime, and did what's that? You're Next, I believe. Looks like he's done a really good job. I mean, the best we've seen so far. I mean, some of this footage looks really just great and kind of dark and appropriately dark and scary. And even the human parts looked not too dumb. And it looks like we got a great cast for this. So Alexander Skarsgård, Millie Bobby Brown, Rebecca Hall, these are all really good kind of people. And my man from Deadpool 2, Julian, what's his name? I forget his name. Yeah, so it looks like a good bit of fun on this.
Jim is starting chaos in the chat, by the way.
Yeah, Jim is not about this.
Oh, God. Jim's stepping to Godzilla.
The Scardy Vendetta is Team Godzilla all the way.
All there. Spicy Vince Scardy.
Oh, my God, Jim. Jim, stop sabotaging the show. We are.
I am not going to take this Godzilla slander.
Yes,
What
this is a live show,
is
ladies
this?
and gentlemen.
Who are you?
You are not scheduled for this show, sir.
I mentioned this in the chat. We all forget
amazing.
the time that Godzilla just ripped open a monster's mouth and just dropped atomic breath right through him.
That's not Kong. That was a stupid little muto, and I feel like I'm using a slander saying that, but it was a stupid little muto, and like that's not Kong.
Man.
Godzilla.
Kong is
he
a
was crowned.
PhD in whipping ass and eating
He
bananas.
was
Guess what?
crowned
He's
king
all out
of
of
the
bananas.
monsters.
He's all out of it.
He is already the king.
What it's about to be was the king because somebody else is coming for that crown.
Not even a little bit. Y'all, I can't wait until his movie comes out so I can just come back and be like, I told y'all so.
You're not gonna win this.
Look, I'm about to leave. I could not handle the Godzilla slander that was going on. Their unfair bias.
This is so good.
Don't appreciate it. I'm out of here.
This is
Without
abuse
Godzilla,
of
there would be
power.
no axe. Yeah. The axe is great.
You see how smoothly Jim came in here?
For power, yeah. I was
no
and
technical
I was
issues,
so
no
close.
nothing.
Yeah, no technical issues, no
Just popped
nothing.
in
I
there,
was so close to unity on this. Of just saying, I was so glad that if nothing else, I'm happy that this trailer has made people rediscover Kong Skull Island, which is an underrated gem. But it seems Jim is shutting that down too. But no, you're not stopping this renaissance.
Kong Skull Island is
aesthetic-
the best monster movie.
The aesthetic of all of these movies is phenomenal. And so to hopefully have that be brought over into Godzilla vs. Kong is really one of the things I'm truly excited for. But like, I mean, that's really what just gets me jazzed. I just am finally glad we're going to see this movie. And like I said, I'm going to step out of here. I just needed to come in and tell y'all we're wrong. And I did not appreciate all the Godzilla hate
We're glad
going
we
on.
have you here.
Go off, Jim.
We
Go
need
off.
representation.
Thank you. All right. You guys have a good show.
That's so great. I love it.
Jim coming in hot, coming in real hot. But that's Jim Viscardi, everybody. That was producer Jim Viscardi coming in to stand up for all you Godzilla people, so you don't have to flay us in the comments. Like Jim came in, he stumped for you. He's here. All right, we're gonna do that. Moving on from Godzilla versus Kong. This kind of led me to the larger discussion I was kind of interested in talking with you guys about, which is now that we're here, we're getting this trailer. At the same time, we're getting news about all of these big movie delays for the 2021 movies, right? A lot's happened since we've been on this show last. There have been basically the whole spring slate has been moved over. We're waiting on what? Like Black Widow is the last thing we're waiting to hear about at this point.
Yeah, they're moving her again, right?
Yeah, Bond's gone. Like, we know what. Yeah, so a bunch of Disney other movies have moved. Bond has moved. Like, all of the big things that were supposed to prop up this spring season have basically gone. Then this Godzilla versus Kong trailer comes out, and now I'm suddenly thinking, like, for all the controversy we were talking about with WB. Yeah, are they not the smart ones right now? Like, am I the only one who's been seeing all the commercials that's really lodged in my brain of them running that HBO Max same theater day commercial hype reel they have and just being like,
Yep.
Yeah.
They are so. I remember we were talking about like all the people coming out against it, and before I get just railed, I understand why people are upset about it, especially from like a filmmaker side and from a theater side.
Yeah.
I get it. However, in this current climate and with the reality of things, it is so smart to do it this way. And I feel like, they're kind of being proven right. Let's see the results. Let's see the views and all that and how it goes throughout the year, right? But so far, I've not been more hyped for HBO Max. That reel that's like, oh, here's Suicide Squad and Mortal Kombat and all these other things coming.
Space Jam.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm keeping my subscription active for a reason, and it keeps you hooked. And
HBO Max is looking real good, that sub right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah.
And Disney, just get over it and reveal that Black Widow is going to come to a streaming thing. Whatever crazy deal you want to do, fine. I mean, I wish that they wouldn't do that ridiculous Mulan thing of like $30, whatever. That to me is garbage. So don't do that again. But whatever thing you got to finagle to make everybody happy or as happy as it can be, but get real. At this point, just get real. I'm not going to the theater to see it. I want to see it so bad, but you know,
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I feel like they're smart because they're creating the new culture. I mean, the pieces have all been there. We've put together, I mean, Brandon Davis last year was putting together huge quarantine watch party events, you know, just with movies and press and play at the same time. WB is now advertising this, and this will become the culture, right? Like, we'll all still be talking about these movies, and it's going to even be more interesting after Wonder Woman we saw, which is this large kind of democratization of movies outside of the sphere of, you know, people having to actively pay and go to the theater to see that, and only seeing the things they really care about enough to do that. Now they can sit at home, and now we're going to have all kinds of inputs into these movies. So it's going to be wild, man. But yeah.
And if you want to go to the theater, you can, you know,
it's not gone. The option's not gone.
Yeah, you can go to the theater, and you know, we did. Kofi and I, we were part of a premiere with Tenet, and we all wore masks. We were socially distanced, and I mean, it felt safe for me. Like I felt good. We were in a huge theater, and as long as they keep the capacity really low, like I will go see Black Widow in the theater before I watch it on my TV, and I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with people. I want content. So as a fan, HBO's got it. I'm so excited about more content. I think that like this is something that we should definitely lean into because we're going to lose progress. We're going to lose movies. Like we're going to lose so many things that we want to keep going after all of this has, you know, figured itself out, hopefully. And the theaters are a thing again. And, you know, we can't just like stop everything and keep delaying and lose so much time and so many, you know, projects. We've got to keep this rolling. So yes, I think every other company needs to get with the program and start doing this.
One of our commenters, Real Ron Purty, said, if I see a commercial with Jared Leto about an HBO movie on HBO Max one more time.
I agree with.
I mean,
as long as he gets a Joker, I'm cool.
I know what you're saying, but again, that's a good example because how many people would even notice a movie like The Little Things, that movie that's coming up this weekend?
I would not.
Jared Leto, Denzel Washington, Remy Malek.
She looks really good.
Great cast.
Yeah,
looks
I'm
awesome.
gonna watch that. And how many people would actually notice that, even if it's just enough to be annoyed by Jared Leto doing some weird, possible killer hobo guy act? Like, yeah, so WB, I think, is on to something. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because, like I said, you're going to have an influx of people who would never notice and pay or go out to a theater for a movie like that who are going to sit down this weekend and be like, new movie, oh my God, put it in my veins. And like, yeah.
And I agree with
and that's
Aaron
just me,
Five.
I'm describing, but like, I feel like there will be more than just me doing that. So
yeah, I agree with Aaron Five's comment, by the way, which is actually a really smart way to do a release. So like when, you know, theaters are at full capacity again, you can re-release a lot of these things in IMAX.
Oh, that's a
to
good
give
call.
people
Yeah.
you know, a improved, expanded experience other than just going to see the movie on a big screen again. That's a cool way, especially HBO especially WB because they do a bunch of stuff in that ratio anyway, and they're big IMAX supporters. So I think that's smart.
It's also awesome that they're going to be getting a jump. Like, we don't have very long to start waiting. I mean, we're going to get smaller films, but like the big films are coming soon. Like by spring, we'll all be talking about big films again. And there is something kind of comforting about that.
Yeah.
All right, give us that Black Widow. I know. I feel like poor Black Widow.
I know.
Why do we feel bad for it?
Fallen,
like everybody else had to adapt. Like
I feel like she's fallen from the box office and won't even get a funeral just to stream.
I just like I don't feel bad anymore. I'm like you held out for some reason thinking like things were gonna change from a month-to-month basis, and every other studio told you it's not happening, and you did it anyway. I don't feel bad.
True.
All right.
Touche.
There you go. So we're gonna see. It's gonna be an interesting year of movies. Yeah. Who knew? WB and, you know, DC and stuff, they could get a major jump on this. So it's going to be interesting to see. I want to see what happens when Suicide Squad hits and Mortal Kombat hits and kind of like that kind of stuff. Those things that are really trying to kickstart franchises. So it's going to be interesting.
So excited about Mortal Kombat.
Me too. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break. and try to pay some bills here. But when we come back, we're going to break down that next WandaVision episode, talk some comics, and get into the preview of the WWE Royal Rumble. So stay tuned for all of that. And we're back.
That music slaps.
Yeah, that does slap. Woo, slap hard. All right, so like we said when we were coming back, we're going to talk first about the next episode of WandaVision, episode 3. Then we're going to talk about some comics, and then at the end, we have a surprise guest jumping in with us for a breakdown of WWE's Royal Rumble. So be sure to stay tuned for that too. So let's get into WandaVision, guys.
WandaVision. I haven't sang in a while, so I had to do it.
No. I mean, it was great.
You got to keep that streak alive, man.
Yeah, I mean, we got a songbird. We got to use her, I mean,
Comic Book Nation's got talent.
Yeah, there we go. Bam. So thank you for that intro. That was very nice, Jill. Yes. So episode 3, when we talked about episode 1 and 2, I pulled the flex and told you guys I had seen 3 ahead of time, and that I thought this one would be pivotal to kind of maybe sparking people out of the initial malaise that they had with the first 2 episodes as things kind of drastically get a little bit more freaky, a little bit more interesting. Was that the effect you guys had when you watched it, Matt?
I love how you go right to me.
You're our comics expert. I was kind of curious how you felt.
Okay, so after watching this episode, I will say this was the best episode of the series to date for me. Also, it did the best job of, in that 22 minutes or whatever, threading the line of like upping the tension, showing you different things of like something's off, all that, building that layer that they've been trying to build, and then also slipping in some cool, fun homages, nothing like too deep or anything, but like fun homages and cool references, and also moving the story forward. And they still homage the fun like Brady Bunch thing, right? They still did that, which is like core to the show. But they did all the other things really well, and I felt like it was actually a well-rounded episode. And honestly, I was kind of like, okay, I feel like in a lot of ways, this should have been part of the first episode. Like you could have cut the first 2 and put the best bits from them and the first half, and then had this be like the real thing. Because if this had been the first episode, I would be way more high on the series. So I thought this was finally like moving in a good direction for me.
J Wheel.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I think I've said this before so many times. I'm a huge fan of the structure of the show. I am a big Bewitched watcher, Brady Bunch watcher. I mean, I was watching that as a kid up until like I was a teenager, Partridge Family, the whole thing. So the structure of this is great for me because I get both these like kind of creepy undertone hints of, what's going to be going on with this entire universe. But I also have to tell you guys, I did something huge. I read House of M.
Yes.
I read the whole thing, and I just finished it before I watched this 3rd episode. And boy, what a difference it makes. If I don't know, it hasn't been confirmed, has it, that it is going to definitely like follow House of M, the comics,
No.
But it's at least been hinted or teased or like hypothesized.
Yeah, the breadcrumbs are all over the place.
Yeah. And so that, if you are kind of having a hard time maybe sinking your teeth into it, I highly recommend reading House of M and then going back and watching all 3 episodes, because that's what I did. I made my fiance wait to watch the first 2 episodes until the 3rd one came out because I just felt like there was no payoff in the first 2. And so once I finally got to see the last one, I said, okay, or the 3rd episode, I was like, let's go in together. We're going to watch all of them and sit down in one setting. And like, it was really exciting. After reading House of M, I felt like the payoff at the end of the 3rd episode with, Geraldine coming out of the bubble or whatever we want to call it, is very exciting. Even the artwork from House of M, there's an alternate, on the first book, there's an alternate cover, and it's like of Wanda, of her face like this, and like all these pixels like basically being like ripped apart of her own face and her own hands. And it looks like so much like the end credits from the episodes with all those little pixels moving around and swirling. It's crazy. Like if this doesn't tie into House of M, I'm going to be like so shocked and kind of disappointed.
Okay, well, that's a good
Spreading
point.
so much chaos in the comments.
Yeah.
Well,
But I
let's talk
got
about,
it, you know?
let's talk about the comments and just take some of the theories that people are kind of talking about, and let's just address some of the big ones in episode 3. So, first of all, we have the twins born, Billy and Tommy. Of course, those are just not random names. For anybody who doesn't know Marvel Comics history, those are the children that Wanda initially created out of magic. It was found out she used pieces of the devil Mephisto's soul to make them. Mephisto later reclaimed them, but he didn't. They were later reborn, and they became and grew up to be heroes in the Marvel and the Young Avengers team, Speed and Wiccan, who later figure out their true origins and connections to Scarlet Witch. So now we have these two literally being born into the MCU and on the table for later reuse. So that's a step towards Young Avengers. People have asked about Geraldine. If you don't know, Geraldine is Monica Rambeau, who is the daughter of Maria Rambeau, who was Captain Marvel's best friend in the Captain Marvel movie. And Maria Rambeau has her own set of powers. She goes by like 50 different names in Marvel Comics. Photons, I guess one I'll just use, or Spectrum.
I think Spectrum is the one they'll go with.
Spectrum they'll go with. Yeah, but she has like kind of light powers and stuff. And so that's what you kind of saw at the end of episode 3, was that first hint that that Geraldine works for SWORD. She wears the little pendant, and that, yeah, she has her own set of powers. So that's another step, possibly in the Young Avengers direction. And let's talk about the big theory. Jim is freaking out in the comments. A lot of people have been freaking out about this in the last week. The reverse House of M being a big theory, what we're going to see happen. So if you don't know your comics history, House of M was this story where Wanda kind of lost it and created her own reality where she had these children, and she made the world kind of, you know, really crazy good for mutants and for her family. But when it all kind of broke down, she caused what was now known as M Day, in which her kind of final reality warping wish, if you will, was the phrase "no more mutants," which basically nearly made mutants extinct in the Marvel universe for a long time. And it was down to just like the X-Men and a handful of other mutants that they were trying to preserve. Yeah, it was like 100, something like that. I fell off the books because I thought all this got really stupid after this.
Oh, but, man, I loved that little time there.
Oh, man. The Utopia or whatever they tried to create.
Man, yeah, Utopia? Give me Utopia.
Schism. I mean, Messiah War and all that stuff.
For the
really
Cyclops
great.
Norman Osborn moment alone with the jetpack is worth that whole friggin' thing. But yeah.
But anyway, so there were no more mutants. But now the theory is in the MCU, we're going to get the reverse. That Wanda will be the cause of mutants by basically calling a retcon in which she says the opposite. Instead of no more mutants, we're going to see more mutants. And that'll be kind of her reality warping final wish at the end of this. What do you think about that theory? And do you like it? We will go to you, Janelle, since you just finished House of M Twist.
Yeah, I do like it a lot. I think that I come from a place where I'm more on the superhero side, so I need to be more familiar with this mutant world. We did read an X-Men comic this week, and I was completely lost. Like, I was pained reading this comic book. Yeah. So honestly, the more that they can introduce film and TV currently and bring the mutants more into the light so we can actually get to know them and get their stories more. Also being able to call them mutants and not miracles in movies would be huge. And I just think there's a lot of characters that need their stories to be told. And I want to get to know them, not just in comic books, but definitely on the big screen or the streaming screen, however they're going to release these because of the world we're living. But yeah, I think it'd be really great. I'm all about it. I am, I wish that I've heard a theory of Vision escaped into the interwebs somehow and is still survived. And that could be another theory. But I'm so scared that is not the truth. And I'm bummed because I want Vision to still be there with Wanda. But I think it's more likely this other theory is where we're headed.
Matthew.
I'm really glad that Janelle brought up one, and we'll get into it a little bit later, but like X-Men, right? Because yes, it is, especially with so much. Like, I did feel bad actually about throwing you into the deep end on that one. I was like, we needed to talk about it, but it's kind of, yeah. So there's a lot there, so don't feel bad at all. Number two, because I don't love the comics version of Wanda like I actually love the MCU version. I actually prefer the MCU version of Wanda over the comics, just because I think she's just she's a more well-rounded character. She's just more interesting than all the things that have happened to Wanda in the comics. And in the MCU, it feels like you're there for the ride with her. Like, she's a character despite all those things. So I really like that. And I think if you were going to pull the trigger on something from House of M, this would be the best way to get all your, I don't even know if she would say more mutants, just mutants would be a great way to just like clean the board. Like, they've never existed. You don't have to mess with all that. Well, this person was around secretly and all that, because then things get muddy. So why not just make it mutants or something along those lines? And then you have them and they're there. And now you just have to, like, you know, explain a few little things, but you've created this big canvas. I like it. I like the idea. I'm okay with Vision not being around, but I'm not like the biggest Vision fan. I'm not the biggest Vision fan. So, like, take that.
Yeah, I don't want to burst Janelle's bubble, but villain they call me. I'm sorry, sir. That has been saying in the comments that he seems to still have a stone in his head, which is a huge red flag that Vision's probably not there, because it's probably a memory. It's probably a memory of him, because he wouldn't still have that stone, baby. That stone is gone, baby, gone. Plum Solo also said something I kind of wanted to say to agree with you, Matt, which is that, Wanda losing it is basically, she's become Marvel's MacGuffin for every big cluster fudge in their universe. Wanda went hysterical and then, lost her powers, which I don't think is a trope we need. We can get deeper than that, which I'm glad WandaVision is doing. So, all right, that sounds good. Anybody have anything else they wanted to throw out there? What I did love, I'll just say in closing, is I love the soap opera kind of sitcom thing came in, because I was like, oh, child, as soon as she name dropped Ultron, I was like, you didn't. And I was eating my popcorn on the edge of my seat. So good stuff. The preview episodes are done, so nobody really knows what's coming up. There are no press out there that know what's next. This is truly new territory we're about to get into for WandaVision. So stay tuned. We'll be definitely staying on top of that. All right, guys, let's talk some comics. Matt, what do you got for us this week?
Yeah, so you know what? Let's kick off, because we're already on it. We've already kind of briefly referred to it. So not so much the issue of X-Men. Let's start off with the big news, which is the X-Men election, which this issue actually does refer to as well. So for those who have been following, the X-Men, Cyclops and Jean kind of made a change to what the next X-Men team would be, and so they're going to put it up for elections. Of course, within the books, you will see, the council and other things voting on who makes this team, and they're going to leave it up to the actual mutants on Krakoa. But there's that one final slot, and the one final slot is going to be decided by fan vote, which is always a grenade, I feel like. So this list is pretty interesting. I will be curious to see who voted who. People know who I voted for already. So that is, what do you think of that? Do you like the idea of being able to vote on this, leaving that last slot up to a fan vote? Do you like that?
Yeah, I think that's special. That's really cool.
That's all I gotta say is I called it.
You did call it. Kofi did actually call it. He did say that there would be a thing. Who'd you vote for, Kofi?
I'm still split right now. I'm I can't make up my mind to press the button between Marrow and Forge, because I think Forge, it's been a while since I've really seen Forge kind of brought out to do something good as a 90s X-Men kid. Forge is awesome. And I think if you really put Forge to use in the way that Marauders has put Kitty Pryde to use and things like that, I think there's a new era of Forge waiting for us. So I'd love that. Similarly, as a 90s kid, I also freaking love Marrow, because
Marrow's awesome.
Was one of the greatest kind of character creations and glow ups I've ever seen in X-Men comics, from the initial like looking like a weird kind of festering tumor look she had to kind of getting the mohawk badass look. And her powers are cool. So I always love Marrow. So, you know, I can't vote against it. Luckily they didn't put Maggot on this, or this would have been lopsided voting right from the start.
You dang right it would be, and it's criminal. Why isn't Maggot on this list? Tempo made it over Maggot, whatever. Anyway,
that is. I mean, there's some weird. Yeah, there's. I will come out and agree. There are some weird choices on here, like Arma.
Right. Well, I was going to actually read the whole list. So
yeah,
before we move to Janelle and me and who we voted for, so the list consists of Banshee, Polaris, Forge, Boom Boom, Tempo, Cannonball, Sunspot, Strong Guy, Marrow, and Armor. So it's an interesting list, and there's some really big characters on there. But it's
and then there's Strong Guy and Banshee, as Jim pointed out. There's some really big characters, and then there's Strong Guy and Banshee.
So Janelle, out of that group, who looks most interesting to you? Just on a name, and if you don't know their powers or whatever, just on a first impression.
Well, the only thing, the comic that we just read had like a little moment of Cannonball having dialogue. Did you see that? There was like a full weird transcript page. I out of nowhere that I was very confused about. I was like, is this a blog? Like, what's happening? But that's because I'm familiar from. I felt like that's kind of like an unfair moment. You're throwing that character in there, and you know, he gets a Cannonball gets a biased like little moment. But honestly, I feel so confused by the whole thing. I'm truly.
It's all good.
It's so much. Like in previous X-Men comics that we have been reading, I feel like I've understood quite a bit because they're not. I felt like they're just throwing words out there. Of like references to things that, I mean, if you didn't know, it was impossible. It was impossible. It felt like I was reading a science biology book or something. And honestly, like the vote was my favorite part because I started to kind of like look at these characters and see the names and go, okay, like who is this? What do they do? Like, what is their power? And I feel kind of embarrassed that I don't know a lot about the X-Men now because there's a huge lineup that I had no idea. I thought the X-Men was like Storm and Rogue, and you know, it's just.
Well, do not feel embarrassed about not knowing who half of these characters are.
Yeah,
I do not feel that way at all.
I can't believe we're still doling out Banshee. Like, I mean, I guess there hasn't been enough progression for Irish rights to like stop throwing their weird stereotype character from the 70s at us. Like nobody. I mean, Siren's a 10 times better character. Like, just stop with this Banshee stuff.
I agree. By the way, that's a hot take. I agree with that hot take.
The most interesting thing about, I mean, I was just about to say, with Marrow, I realized I'm kind of on the line between Marrow and Boom Boom because Boom Boom has been an interesting character.
I just like that name.
It's a great name. She's a classic character from like very 90s character. But in recent books, she's killed it. She's great. They've done such a good job with her and kind of giving her that Kate Pride, you know, like redo and like really letting her personality shine. And she's got like a great power set. She needs to be in this. I think it would be great. I think she has it.
Boom Boom was really interesting during that weird arc in the 90s where Sabretooth was getting reformed when they were basically doing like a man behind the wall with him like chained there, and she got really close with him. Yeah. That was like the weirdest character pairing, but like the most pre-Hickman thing I think I've ever seen was
that was like Joe Mad days, right?
Yeah, Joe Mad days. Like, yeah, Boom Boom's friendship with Sabretooth. So she could be a really interesting character, and I think, and I love that she's just like a trailer park trash character with a weird 80s mall retro vibe. So, I mean, that's good stuff you could play with too. So I'm on the fence. It's a hard vote for me, man.
It's a hard vote. So moving from X-Men, because I feel like there wasn't one. I will shout out before we move on completely from X-Men. It was cool to see the like classic X Factor uniforms come back. I do have a soft spot for that Cyclops white and blue look and like Jean's old school look. Like I like that stuff.
It feels so out of place in the Krakoa era.
But it does. It doesn't make any sense from like a practical thing. And I agree. I mean, there was a lot of. I mean, this book is very Hickman. This book fits. You know, this is like supposed to anyway be like the flagship book, even though I say Marauders is. But this is supposed to be the flagship book of this current realm of post House and Powers X-Men, right? So, but this particular issue didn't really add a ton for me. I just thought the election was like the most important part to talk about.
Yeah, skip to the end.
It's really special. It's a special thing. Imagine if like they did that with Justice League or like Avengers.
Yeah, everybody slow down. Keep it moving before this.
But it would be so cool.
So, moving into Future State, though, we've got, of course, a lot to talk about. There was a lot of books this week, but the ones we want to talk about are Dark Detective number 2, which follows Bruce Wayne, the supposed dead Batman, who's still around, and Harley Quinn, White Knight, Harley Quinn, which is the last issue turned out to be a really big favorite amongst the show. So, of course, this is the next issue. I want to talk about that. Of these two, what stood out to you most?
For me, it was DD, Double D.
What about, because I remember us talking about the first issue and you liked it, but you weren't like in love with it.
Yeah, I feel like this one maybe helps clear up some of the continuity of this, because I was complaining about continuity and like what happened, why is Bruce Wayne dead, then not dead and missing. And I feel like this one did a good job of really clearing that up and making it seem like why some of these stories, it seems like Bruce Wayne is dead and why he's clearly alive in some of them. Is this confusion about his fake death. And I thought it was just the best that showed me. It was kind of the culmination of what we've been talking about for like a year now, of what they've been trying to do with Batman, this whole back to basics, back to the ground after Joker War. And this even referenced Joker War. Yeah, that was nice. And this was the actual vision of it that I could get behind. Like Bruce Wayne out in the streets with nothing, kind of this rugged, more kind of, thrift store Batman and just trying to survive in this kind of occupied Gotham. That was interesting storytelling to me.
Like, he doesn't even have a cowl. He has like a bike helmet. It's so,
and his whole setup of like living in a house with this dude and this guy, crazy man's
conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's so weird. It's just kind of like, it reminds me of Daredevil. I forget the name of the story arc when he basically like reinvented himself as like a chef and stuff. Like, it's kind of like that. And it works for me. It kind of is the most interesting version of these Gotham future stories I've seen. And I like it more than the next Batman.
Agreed. No, I agree. Which was surprising me because I didn't expect that. But, Janelle, what did you feel?
Yeah.
Like? Which one stuck out for you?
Oh, Harley. Yeah, the Harley. I mean, I actually love both of those a lot, but the Harley is just, it's magnificent. The artwork is so gorgeous and unique, and the storyline is so easy to follow, but yet it's very intriguing and interesting. It's just so cool to see her in this role. And I mean, even like deep, like if you go in really deep, like even the like mention of like, oh, you're dealing with some postpartum depression and like things like that you maybe probably just skimmed right over. But the fact that they even touch on that in a comic book with Harley is like shocking. It's, I don't know. It's just a really beautiful, it feels like a book almost. I feel like it reads like my imagination keeps, kind of getting away from me in a good way. And some of the comic books that I've read, they spell everything out so much. They lay everything out so much. And there's so much dialogue that you're not really, free to do that. And I loved it. I think they've done such a good job with her storyline. And I've actually missed one in between, and I still picked right up like it was nothing. Yeah. I just got the storyline. And it was great.
That's so nice to hear. Yeah, I liked both. I mean, I actually agree. Both of your points are the reasons why I liked both of these issues quite a bit. I thought Dark Detective did a very good job of putting the focus on that back to basics Batman, shoring up some of those continuity issues we talked about last week with some of the other Batman appearances. That is still a mess, but within Dark Detective, it works. I understand where things are, and it's helping. And like Batman Superman had some additional context from like what happened before, like the magistrate completely took over and things like that. So there are other nuggets out there that are worthwhile. But if you just read Dark Detective, I think you're in pretty good shape. And Dan Mora could, draw the phone book and I'd be happy. So art is gorgeous. As far as Harley, I agree. I think, one of the things I love most about this character in this version is that she's an adult. It's an adult, like very approachable story from this character of like, I mean, look at us just in this show talking about it. We all, like I'm a new parent, Kofi's been doing the parenting thing for a while, you're not a parent yet. But look at all the different styles, right? And we all come at it and we all enjoy this book because it still touches on just like adulthood. It touches on a character and makes her so interesting. And the stuff with Joker, I haven't loved the flashbacks to the Joker stuff in the previous issues. But this was fantastic. Just the way it actually adds something. Yeah, like it adds something to that context, and it's rich, and it's not just like, oh, we have to shoehorn Joker in here. Oh, we have to,
Kind of closing out, because I said I like Dark Detective, and I didn't explain why. I loved the last issue of Harley, and I love all these issues of Harley, and it seems like they skip, like the even ones are a little different than the odd ones, but the even ones tend to kind of focus more on these two villains a little bit more. And that's what I didn't enjoy as much about this one. I felt like this one was very heavily about the villains and whatever her name is, the female villain. I forget her name, like Shade or whatever her name is. Yeah. And I liked the parts that were really about Harley, like that flashback I really loved about kind of retconning the Batman 89 Joker origin with Harley kind of like thrown in there, which was really great. Because if you didn't, that was a little Easter egg. I guess I've seen that movie so many times, but like that was exactly like Batman 89 drawn in a different style. But that stuff was amazing. And I love that, like you said, the adult Harley story. It's when it's kind of moving into these other things that kind of spread. And this one was all about the twist reveal at the end that guy she's working with is, kind of been brainwashed by these villains and is a little off his nut. So I liked it when it was Harley. I just thought it moved a little bit too far away from her for my liking, but
agreed.
That was it.
Understand.
All right. So we got one more thing to do at the end of the show. We got WWE Royal Rumble coming up. And so we got to talk about it, but I don't feel like I'm qualified to do that. So let's get on an expert. Let's get on a special guest here. Let's bring him out, Rich, if we can. There he is.
Bring him out.
Mr. Connor Casey.
Not even COVID could keep me away from this show, guys.
Look at that.
Please don't say that. Please don't test that.
No, I beat it.
Oh, wait, you had it?
What do you think I've been fighting those last 10 days?
I don't know. I haven't heard this. We're all in separate houses. Like,
check my Twitter, Kofi. Come on, man.
Sorry, man. I've been taking social media breaks for my own health.
I understand.
Yeah,
we're so glad you're safe and with us.
Yeah, man. I didn't know
Thanks
this.
for being here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you for being here. I thought you were just talking in general. I didn't know you were talking personally.
No.
Man, I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're here. I mean, I take a social. See, Janelle, I told you I took a social media break, and everything breaks down by the time I get back. Yes, falling apart. All right. Glad you're okay. So, Mr. Connor Case is here to talk WWE Royal Rumble. We are glad you are here. Somebody said that I blocked you. I didn't block him.
You might have muted me. You don't know that.
Oh, I did not mute you either. I just, like I said, I've just been stepping away. I had a COVID scare here with my kids, and so I've been rather busy. Everybody's okay. I'm glad you're okay. Now let's talk something happier. Let's talk about WWE Royal Rumble.
Let's talk about happier times because the Royal Rumble is this Sunday. This is one of my favorite pay-per-views of the year. It's one of most people's favorite pay-per-views of the year. We've only got about 5 matches on it, but the 2 big ones everyone is going to be talking about are the 2 Royal Rumble matches. You got 30 people in each. Only one person can win it. That person gets a World Championship match at WrestleMania in April. Matt, before we break down the actual matches themselves, let's talk about that WWE title match. Let's talk about Drew McIntyre versus everybody's favorite old guy and mine, Goldberg.
Oh,
how do you feel? He's back. Anybody who watches this show may recall the last time we talked about Goldberg and I gave loving direction towards camera 2 to focus on me. And trust me, once we're back in the studio, I'm bringing that bit back. But Matt, how do you feel about this match?
Okay. I am a Goldberg fan. I'll just put that out there right now. I do not like the fact that he's been popping up more and more. I thought the 2016 return was perfect. You didn't need to screw it up anymore, but they keep doing it to diminishing returns. What I will say, though, is that I actually think as long as Drew McIntyre wins and they put him over, I'm fine with it. That's fine. That's how, to me, legends should be used, to push a newer star and to put that rub on and move them forward in a way. So I think it would be really smart, because Goldberg made an example of Brock Lesnar, right? And they did that whole thing. And yes, Lesnar got the win back and stuff, but no one remembers that part. Everyone remembers the first part where he decimated Lesnar in 5 minutes. So
do you guys, can I ask a question, not to interrupt, but do you guys think the Supreme Court is going to hear the case eventually about the WWE and elder abuse?
yes,
maybe.
yes, they might. Yes, I don't think, I know this worked out bad last time with the Fiend.
Oh, and last time? How about the last 2 times? Because poor Kevin Owens still hasn't recovered.
Yes, but okay, Kevin Owens can recover from anything, as we've seen. He
has never hit the same level he was at.
He's fine.
I love Kev, but
he's buried under chairs and tables on a regular basis. It's fine. I don't think he can be hurt. I think, though, you can hurt Drew by giving Goldberg a win. So yes, I don't like that. If that is the scenario, I will be upset. However, if it's not, yay.
This whole thing is just with the big old asterisk of this is fine as long as Drew wins. If Goldberg wins, nobody's happy. Especially not me, because I'm coming back on this show if Drew loses. Okay. You're going to hear what I have to say. But anyway, let's get to the matches that people really want to talk about, the Royal Rumble matches themselves. Matt, for me, this is the first time in a while where the field's kind of wide open.
Yeah.
They've done a good job at 5 or 6 people potentially winning the men's match and 3 to 4 winning the women's match. Usually it's 1 or 2. And it's if that. It's whichever, if that. Yeah. It's usually 1 and it's Roman and it's, oh dear God, please don't make it happen.
Yeah.
Who you got? Who's in your top 3 going into Sunday?
Are we splitting men and women or just as a whole?
Let's split men and women.
Okay, so men, I feel like recent episodes of SmackDown and Raw, I would say Cesaro and Shinsuke would be 2 favorites to win, because they have been pushing them and actually letting them get wins, which is amazing in this age. So I will say them for me. I say if I had to pull a third, I'm gonna pull for my boy Otis. So there. Tucker, I'm gonna pull for
Can I just say, last week when he pops out of nowhere during that obstacle course with Bianca, that was amazing.
It's amazing. And Bianca lifted him no problem. All right. So speaking of Bianca, I will say for the women's, Bianca is right up there. They have been pushing her. They have been, as they should, and they've been doing a great job of that so far. I will say also Bayley is a great way to do it if you want to keep heat on her and kind of keep her in that picture. And then the other, I would say, and this one is kind of, I will say Alexa Bliss. They've been pushing her. That whole Fiend storyline, I feel like, is still drawing viewers in, whether people hate it or not. It's still commanding attention. I will say I wish they would give it to Liv, because she is an underrated star and feels like that would be a great way to kind of get her back in there. But that probably won't happen. Yeah. So I would say
she's not ready yet.
I would say those 3. Oh, I think she's ready. I think they have done a piss poor job of giving her anything to work with. So I will say she's ready. But I will say those 3 stars for me. What about you?
So for the men's, I got to go with my guy, Daniel Bryan. I think we know that his days as a full-time wrestler are coming to an end here soon. If they're ever going to feel like pulling the trigger on actually giving him a run after years of fans asking for it, I think it's this one, because there's a great story you can tell with him and Roman, where Roman goes, hey, how come every time I'm about to get success, the people choose you instead?
That's a good point.
You can take this back 6-7 years in terms of the history those two have, even though they don't interact that often.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Big E. If you watch SmackDown, they have strapped a rocket to this guy. I don't know if he walks in with the Intercontinental Championship into Mania, but him versus Roman could be a ton of fun. And number 3, I got to go with Edge. And Jim brought it up in the comments. That promo on Monday was outstanding. And I really don't want to see him versus Randy Orton for a 3rd time. So let's go with, let's give him Drew. And just give him a program that the 2 of them can sink their teeth into. Honorable mention is Keith Lee, because I love my boy Keith, and he is not getting enough love right now. On the women's side, I think it's a 2-horse race between Bianca, and even though they haven't said anybody from NXT can show up, Rhea Ripley. I think you can call back to what happened last year. You can instantly put her in the Raw Women's Championship picture because that thing is dead on arrival right now, and she could give it some life. I think the year she's had, I'm not going to say she deserves it, but man, it could do so much for her if she does.
I look, if we were talking surprise additions, because like they've been so hesitant to put NXT in any of their events lately. So I mean, I don't know if they would or not. I think she's more of a Raw after an event type of thing if they're going to debut her for the main roster.
Maybe,
but I do love the idea of her popping up there. I think she adds anything. She's had a great year. She's had a fantastic year after they screwed her with Charlotte and losing. Again, another thing of like halting someone's growth because someone else had to win. So I think it would be a great idea.
And poor Asuka just having nothing to do right now.
She dances.
But she's so much more than
I
that.
know.
Man.
I'm just saying she dances.
She does dance.
She does on Raw. That's what she does on Raw, and it sucks.
And she screams in Japanese, and I don't understand any of it, but she's entertaining. But that's the Royal Rumble for you, Kofi.
I just love hearing wrestling with no context. I feel like that should be like a show concept, like we just launching you guys clips of just saying things because the description of things are just so crazy that you guys describe. I thought anime was nuts, but like wrestling's like really nuts if you just jump in the middle of a conversation.
What did Jim LMAO? What are you talking about? What is he saying? I don't even know what he was referencing there. I don't
know. Jim, I don't know.
You're just chaos.
Chaos. Producing chaos, more like it. Producer Jim Viscardi, everybody. Is that you guys any more for wrestling you wanted to say? Is that it?
I'm good, but man, Kofi, it's fair that you make the anime comparison because wrestling is live action anime. So if you're not watching, you should be.
Sure. I mean, yeah, that's a glowing endorsement right there. All right. Matt, did you have any more comics mentions that you wanted to run down before we get out of here?
Just real quick. There was a lot to get to this week, but I will say Future State Aquaman I know we were a little unsure about the premise as it read. This issue was really nothing like it has that idea at the very end of it, but it's a great story. So if you are looking to give something a chance, especially if you've been reading the last two runs of Aquaman, this was fantastic. Brandon Thomas knocked this out of the park. So definitely check that out. Also, Deadpool number 10 makes me sad because it is the end of the series, a surprise pseudo cancellation. The Heroes Reborn thing is kind of taking over. So we're guessing that a lot of books are kind of meeting their end. So that can kind of come in and take over everything. Hopefully this returns because this is one of the best Deadpool books around. So I am upset, but it is great. Also, Jeff the Shark gets a symbiote and I'm happy. It's amazing. So that is what I wanted to share.
All right. That'll do it for this episode of Comic Book Nation. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. We put up new episodes Wednesday, where we go live on Twitch so we can talk to so many of you guys and interact, which is becoming much more fun. And we love you guys for coming back and being here. We're also live on Facebook, and we hit you guys up as well every Wednesday. If you missed the live shows, we will post the episode on comicbook.com on Wednesday. You can also check it out on our Comic Book Nation YouTube page or on any of your podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and you can tell any Google or other smart home device to play Comic Book Nation podcast, and they'll just do it for you. If you like the show, follow us at Comic Book Nation Twitter account, or you can find us at the Comic Book Nation hashtag, or you can check us out individually. I'm at Kofi Outlaw.
I am Matt Aguilar CB.
I'm at Janelle Wheeler.
And I'm at Connor Casey _CB.
If you like the show, go on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review because, oh my God, we have so many t-shirts to give away eventually. But when we finally get back to a building, hopefully sometime in 2021, we will be giving away t-shirts to our 5-star reviewers. So make sure you're one of them. Otherwise, thank you guys. Be sure to check out some great content this weekend. And you can join us again next week to break it all down on Comic Book Nation. We're out of here. Peace.
Bye, guys.
Deuces.